It's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, we are in for a real treat. I am going to have a guest who, she's amazing. She was born here in America, I believe Syracuse, New York. She then went to go be raised in Ghana, so you know we have to talk Africa. Oh, it's going to be just a great conversation. And then she came back to America, served in the Air Force, but wait, her first job was at McDonald's when she came back, served in the Air Force. And do you know, this is like what you guys would call a real unicorn. She is in the VR. She owns the company. She creates VR. She's an engineer. She plays the creative side and the technical side, though. And that's the part that really makes her a unicorn. I have Mary Spio of Sync. Mary, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You should come with me wherever I go and do that introduction.
I will. You just don't know. My wife is right here. She'll say, yes, that's the type of clients to go for. I'm a consultant in my day. So she's like, yes, go. And, you know, she's from Africa, too. So she's like,
oh, where?
Cameroon.
Okay.
But we're going to get into the Africa talk because we're going to go there. But I just want to, you know, you've worked with the Lucas Films, the Boeings, from those humble beginnings of McDonald's. Where was your mindset to be where you were at now? Did you always have the plan and the path, or was it just one thing led to another?
I think one thing led to another because I didn't really have the plan or the path, right? For me, especially growing up in Ghana, my dream was to, go to America. Was to come to America. And I didn't know what I was going to do after that. And so it was sort of going on this path. I always knew that there was something greater. I didn't allow myself to be limited, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, right? For me, getting a job at McDonald's, it was like, wow, this is the kind of stuff that I see in movies, and now I'm doing it. And then it was the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So I wish I could say I had the plan, but I didn't.
Well, because some people think, these things just happen, but you definitely took the steps, got the training from the Air Force, got your, education, at the universities, and, always wanting to come back to America, I guess, is like, you were an American, but you were also, Ghanaian. How, did you not think you'd make it back? Because you had kind of a, being born here, you could run for president.
Because, when we were living in Ghana, the one thing is I didn't know how my parents were going to be able to afford for me to get a ticket to come back to America. And then too, because the cost of living there, it's vastly different. So, when I came back to the US, which was, quite some time back, it was very expensive to get a ticket, to come back. And then also I didn't know what I was going to do, because I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know any of that. So to me, it was like, it was a very tall mountain that I wanted to climb.
Okay. And you climbed it. And just so the background, because I really like to be able to give, the full picture, because some folks, when you talk about McDonald's and seeing that on TV, they're like, well, maybe in Ghana, she was living like Coming to America and things were like Wakanda and she was, just very privileged. But what was your, class status in Ghana? Was it that you were around the, ambassadors and, the presidents, or was it what type of living situation was it?
I wish I was living like Coming to America, and in Wakanda and all that, but it wasn't, But my dad was an attorney, and my mom is an entrepreneur, so she had her own business. Her parents, also had their own business. So I was not living, like what you see in the UNICEF commercial. But at the same time, I was not, at a palatial estate. I was in a very happy home, right? My mom, my dad, I didn't think that, in relationship to the rest of the world, we didn't have much, but in terms of in our own context, we had everything that we needed. So we didn't have luxury such as buying an airplane ticket, which then was like, I think it was like $1,300, so it was pretty expensive. But I lived a very happy childhood in a home that was filled with love and laughter and all of that, but in our own context.
Awesome, awesome. And you guys are gonna have to be patient. I'm gonna usually, Mary, if you say Africa on this show, ding ding, the balloons come down. But you guys are gonna have to be patient because we have to get into this VR world with Seek. And the fact that, are you the only Black female that you know that is an owner in a VR company like this? Are there others?
I've heard one other person talk about, creating content for VR, and I'm hearing more and more people talk about creating content for VR, and I'm training more people to be able to create content for VR. But in terms of, what I'm doing, I don't know anybody else that's doing the same, Black, white, female, male, or other. So, you know, mhm.
And tell the people why Seek is unique, because some folks will say, oh, I can go get a headset from, China and put my name on it. No, 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 that's not what she's doing. But I want you to hear it from her words. So anything that, I don't even think about the end user. I'm thinking about those who are tech savvy. Break it down for those. Why is Seek unique?
So basically, Seek is a streaming platform for virtual events and experiences. Our mission really is helping content creators, particularly music artists, sports personalities, and then also, entertainers, to be able to generate revenue from their artistry, particularly within virtual environments. And so we have a platform that delivers their worlds or the experiences that we create with them into virtual reality, onto virtual reality platforms. Our platform, so we deliver onto Facebook Oculus, HTC, and Sony PS Station, and gaming consoles, and all of that. So the platform itself, the technology of the platform itself, that's one. When I started, there were not a lot of mobile VR headsets that existed. And so I looked at, Oculus, I looked at some of the stuff that was around that was desktop based. And I wanted to create something that would be comfortable for both men and women, because a lot of the previous headsets had only been tested on men, right? And so for women, our eye distance, the interpupillary distance, is different from men. And so a lot of the stuff that was in the marketplace was very, very difficult because you couldn't adjust it. The focal distance also for men and women are different. But anyway, so it's not just a headset. I mean, my background is an electrical engineer, and I spent a whole year along with other engineers to be able to come up with this technology that allows you to see the content that's not fuzzy, that doesn't make you sick, and all of that. So, it's not just a matter of, oh, okay, I'm going to go to China and I'm going to find something. That's why there are a lot of VR headsets in the marketplace, but there's only one Seek. People are buying this, and also even the headphones. There are a lot of headphones in the marketplace, but I created a 360 VR headphone because, again, for the first time in history, we have 360 content, but all the devices that existed had 2D audio. So think about it. You're watching a 3D movie, but you're using no glasses, or you're using your regular glasses. It's simply not the same. It just happens that the 360 headphone is also that I created. It's all patent awarded. Both the technology as well as the design are both patent awarded. To get a technology patent is very, very difficult. So you have to have something that's novel. You have to have something that's proven, something that's workable and completely different from anything in the marketplace. So it just happens that it's great for music, and it's also great for sports. We have a lot of elite athletes. Actually, 4 of our investors are top athletes, and that's because they use the product. So anybody can go and try any kind of buffoonery, but that doesn't mean that it's really going to, pan out to be the best. You don't get the elite athletes, by mistake. You don't get investments from Facebook Oculus by mistake, and all the partners that we have. It's not, a mistake. It's because of very, it's very intentional. It's also meticulous technical execution that we just make it look easy.
Now, are those headphones wireless?
Yeah, they are. They're wireless. Yep. They're
Oh,
wireless headphones.
okay, so Beats has some competition now because we got somebody else that we can, buy from that looks like us and support with the technology. Not that we're just supporting, but that with technology that no other person has at this time.
No other that technology that no other person has at this time. And then it was also the first, right? It was the world's first, which is why we were able to get the patents for it. I've seen some copycats in the marketplace, but the sound is not the same, And it's one of those things where I'm just like, just put it on, try it on, hear it, hear the difference for yourself.
Now, people will hear you talking VR and say, wow, this sounds expensive. She looks too young to be able to have put this together so quickly with, because they might have just heard about VR yesterday, right? It just depends on where you're at. But, to start this company, you've had other successes, but to do this, did you go after venture capital, angels, or was it all self-funded?
When I started, and a bit of my background, I mean, I started out as a deep space engineer. I had different technologies that I sold to the Boeing company, actually for digital cinema distribution, all that you kind of touched on a bit of that. So I had that money, which I started with, but I ran out of that very quickly. And then I had to, started to look at capital. It was a very, very rough field, at the time. A lot of, quite frankly, was very racist, very sexist. And so I had to kind of put together as much that I could from friends, from family. And then as the vision became more clear, I was able to attract some institutions. But it's been a very long journey, right? It's, I've been able to raise a lot of capital, and continue to need capital, because to do what we're doing at this level, it's very, very costly. But it's not an easy journey. It's, but I've been very dedicated to it, relentlessly, believing in what I'm doing and finding people, allies, and anybody that would listen, to make sure that they could try the technology, they could see it, and that's how I've, been able to build to date.
Now, I just relocated my family and I to where we're at here in South Florida, but we were in Seattle, which Seattle is a place I tell folks there's a reason why Amazon and Microsoft go there, because so much you could learn. There's so much venture capital and angel investors out there. And, when we went that route to just kind of see what was out there, once you're in that circle, it was quite easy. I actually told people no, and my wife was upset. Like, why could you say no? And it was for her business. And I'm like, nah, it's not the right time, given where she was at, even though they were offering everything that, she had asked for, but it wasn't the right time. She was in residency at the time, so she couldn't dedicate that many hours. You do 100 hours a week. But what is what was the path to getting the venture capital? Was it just going to something at Startup Week? Was it just talking to friends that you already had? And then did you have to give up, a majority portion of your company? Because a lot of folks, they hear venture capital, they talk to them, and then they come back to me and they say, I don't even own, 20% of my business anymore. They took it over and gave me a check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see that a lot. My first experience was really bad, right? So my first, venture capital experience was with an investor that felt like, look, I want to put a white face, white male in front of this company, yada, yada, yada. I ended up getting kicked out of my own company. And so the next time around, I made sure that I would look for those red flags. right? So I was in, South Florida myself too, met some, different investors that I felt were not a good fit for what I was doing. Um, and then also right around that time, I was starting to see a lot more funds that were focusing on minorities. I approached some of those funds. But I also approached a lot of corporations. Like I mentioned, Oculus Facebook was the first investment in Seek. And then once we were able to secure that, then we were also able to attract some New York institutional investors, that were traditional investors that didn't even invest in technology or startups for that matter. But they loved the model, they loved what I was doing, they loved the team, they loved everything about Seek. So once I was able to attract those, then I was also able to attract some of the Black funds. So Black Angel Tech Investment Fund was one of them, Black Star Fund. And then I was able to attract a wider variety. But I had to be very, very selective in terms of, who I wanted to bring in. But there were also a lot of Silicon Valley funds that I wanted to, be able to bring in, right? Because it's all about the network effect. Some of those I was not able to attract. And, some of them also have different formulas. And they've said to me, look, this is, really great, but it doesn't fit the formula of, what we're going for, which typically when, they say that, they know what, if they take to the market, it's much easier for them to take something to the market that they say, oh, well, this is the next Zuckerberg, or this is the next, Snapchat. And they haven't seen a Black founder that's done, Zuckerberg. They haven't seen a Black founder that's done, Snapchat and this one and that one. And so they're like, well, we're not, in the business of trying to create that precedent, but there's a lot of money out there now. So many more people want to help.
Okay, man. And so you're in the circle now, and you have so many interests, and you and I, when I was researching, have so much in common. You too write children's books for kids that you want to make a difference. Has your children's book, she has books on Amazon, people you can go check out, but I did not catch yet the children's book on Amazon. Is it available?
It's not available yet. So the children's book, which is interesting because I've had quite a few schools, the children's book is about a little girl, Ikwa, who goes to space. And I wanted to use, that's actually my middle name also. Ikwa is my middle name, which is an African name. And it's also a young, African-American girl who discovers about space and rockets and all of that, and, goes to space ultimately. But I wanted to create something that kind of shared my story, but also created inspiration for other young girls out there that want to be able to see themselves, and it's so important, now as a mom. Honestly, I didn't realize how important it was for children to be able to see themselves and, these characters until I became a mom. And when I hear some of the questions that I get from my own kid and the things that inspire him, it makes me realize that there's such a void in the marketplace. And it's so important that we do these things, that we write these books.
Okay. And so you have a son and just one son currently, right?
Yeah, one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can hear an African mommy say, "Oh, when does the other one come?" Maybe it's
your. Oh, right.
But being a mom and creating that story and letting him see. When do you think that story will be done?
My goal is to have it, sometime in the middle of next year. And I'm also doing an animation to it at the same time. So it's going to be an animated short along with the book, and it'll be AR also. So all the stuff that we're animating and the 3D models. So you'd be able to, if you want to look at Mars, right? Because she goes to flight school, learns about all the planets in a very fun way. So kids will be able to put their phone over it and see all these different galaxies and whatnot. So I'm building it all together, kind of gamifying it a little bit, but it'll be by next summer. So by June, July of 2021, it should be out.
Okay, and are you publishing it yourself? Do you have a deal? How's that working?
For the children's book, I'm actually self-publishing, but I have other books by Penguin, which is, it's not rocket science. That was, that's done by Penguin. So I'm a Penguin author. I might bring this to them as well, but from a lot of the opportunities that I'm looking at, more than likely, I'm just going to self-publish this.
Okay, if I can make a suggestion, if I can, if I'm allowed,
Mhm.
um, if you self-publish it, do it under your company, your publishing company. So if you do it, bring it to Penguin, and they do say yes, and it's like it's going to be under my
An imprint.
imprint and under Penguin at the same time. And I say that because in the children's book market, after you write your third book, you want to go
Mhm.
holler at the CDC and talk with them because there's some secret society groups that you can get into and benefit. So
Oh, okay. But you
yeah,
got to write three first.
yeah,
Do my
you got to write three. There's always something into these groups of why
Yeah,
three, and then you got to go to another meeting to find out the significance of three, and they'll start talking to you about sacred geometry, and you'll be like, I just wanted to, understand
right,
what was going
right,
on in the book, but
right.
yeah, that's something because people don't understand with the children's book. There's a big market that is a void. My wife and I did research how many books aren't for Black kids. I
Yeah,
say Black. They try to put the kids of color, but then they
right.
mix that up with everything else, and they forget the Black ones. So for
They
the
do.
Black kids, there's such a void. And even in our books, when we first started writing children's books, we
Hmm.
didn't have 1.5% of us. Even if it's the
Yep.
book has Black children, it's somebody else who wrote it about us from here.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and then the other tip I would say is, if you throw it on Amazon, make sure you throw it on Ingram Spark. You might already know that because you're an engineer, but Ingram Spark is the only place where libraries will buy your book. So
Oh,
there,
okay. I'll make sure.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
libraries buy a lot of books, work globally when they like your book. So, you might only have so many reviews on Amazon, but if the libraries are buying your book, when that royalty comes, you aren't tripping. And,
Exactly.
yeah, that's game for everybody. Now, was your goal to go to space since you wrote this book with a young girl with your middle name? Was it to go to space? And do you still want to go to space?
I'm a deep space engineer, right? So I've built satellites that are still floating in space. I've worked on different rockets, different, array antennas and all kinds of stuff. I love space. I understand space. I wouldn't rule it out, but my role and, my experience and expertise is really developing technology for space. But, that I didn't, necessarily want to be an astronaut, but I wanted to do exactly, what I did, which was be a deep space scientist, build technology for space. And today there's so much happening with space tourism, and so I wrote it because I want kids to be aware of all the opportunities that are in space. There's so many commercial companies that are focused on space. There's so many careers coming out of the commercial sector that didn't exist before. If you were not part of NASA, you couldn't really, there wasn't much you could do. But today there's a lot that's happening with, space tourism and what have you.
Okay. And how were you in the math and the sciences? Because I think a lot of us get shy away from, the careers in engineering because they're like, oh, I'm not good at math or I'm not good at this. And then you'll talk to the people who are doing it and they'll say, neither am I, but I can get through it. And I just persevered. So how good were you in math and science?
For me, starting out, I always liked math, right? I always liked math. And I used to, we had a lot of books around. That's one thing that we had. My dad had a lot of books around, and he would always, show us like different things in terms of math and science, particularly different puzzles and what have you. So some of the things that I was doing very early on in life, I didn't realize, were differential equations and all these different things because I just thought I was doing puzzles. So I had a very, very early love of math. However, when you think about technology, it shouldn't be scary. You should look at it as a tool. There are a lot of, founders that don't have technical backgrounds, so it's really about problem solving. If you look at Elon Musk doesn't have an background in physics or engineering. He has a background in economics. If you look at Mark Zuckerberg, right? He didn't graduate from Harvard, and Bill Gates, and the list goes on. So you just have to have an interest in the field. So no matter what field you're in, whether you're a medical doctor or political science, if you're a political scientist, you could say, look, the elections are taking too long to count. Maybe I'm going to create a technology that's blockchain based and also biometric based that would allow us to vote via telephone or via our mobile phones that's secure, this one and that. That's solving a problem with technology. So that's really the way I look at it. And that's the way I also encourage, especially, young girls, young Black girls that are thinking, no, it's for everybody else, or it's too difficult, or I don't like math. Do what you love, but, realize that if you can use Facebook, if you can use YouTube, you can find a way to solve a really big problem. You don't have to be really good at math. I just, happen to be.
Okay, so are you like good, like hidden figures good, like we saw in the movie with Taraji P, and I think she played Katherine Johnson, and Janae Monáe played Mary Jackson. Were you like good like that, or you could just click things off and boom?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I graduated #1 in my class at Syracuse University. I used to do extra work, in my advanced engineering math courses. I used to do, extra stuff, solve problems I didn't know hadn't even been solved by the engineering world. So it was just something that I really enjoyed. So, which is why I became a deep space scientist and came up with it, also how it helped me come up with these new algorithms for distributing movies over satellite, which is what I sold to the Boeing company. And so, that's a gift and a blessing, but it's also something that I developed a love of at a very, very early age. And now I also want to be able to eventually help others visualize and learn, math the way that I learned it, the way that it was taught to me, that made it so much fun. And it made it almost like a language, right? I want to be able to, it was a very customized way that I want others to be able to learn about it the same way.
Okay, yeah. I mean, growing up in Africa, you're not, here, I'll say in America, school learning really isn't cool, for the masses. And then if you are the only one, or if you're in a class and half the class is struggling, and you might get beat up. I grew up in the 80s. You might have got beat up. And I'm not saying that's why I didn't know it. I was just kind of lazy until I got to college. I knew money. I knew money. I didn't know math. And I wasn't really too interested. And that's kind of how my brain works. If something really interests me, it'll be done faster than anybody else. Start talking like Trump. It'll be best. It'll be better than anybody else. But if I'm not interested because I can't see how I can apply it, I'm like, whatever. You would love my wife, and you guys could talk about math all day. She's one of those. I'm just like in awe when I met her.
That's amazing.
But I want to kind of focus now on, we talked about your son, and a lot of people use the word busy, and I don't like that word because the people who use it aren't busy. They're just not well organized. And you had a son, and some women will, even now will say, I don't have time to have a family, or nobody is going to want to be with me because I'm so driven and I have ambition. And I'm like, what losers are you used to? I say, I know I'm old and married, but what losers don't want a woman who can really handle her own? So when that man dies first, the family will still be together and she won't have to get remarried just to keep things afloat. So can you talk about, just being an entrepreneur and being a mom and just raising a family?
I mean, it's tough, right? Because, I don't want people to think that, oh, capital is out there and you can do, whatever. When you're an entrepreneur, there are many times where it's not just, 8-hour days or 10-hour days or even 16, where it's around the clock. So it is tough, which is especially why you need to have a good partner, right? That will be able to be supportive and pick up where you drop off and balance each other out. But entrepreneurship is tough, especially for women, and especially for people like myself, that even though we're very technologically advanced, we also have those, I don't want to say traditional views, but we also want to be able to have good quality time, with the kid, with the family, and all of that. But it's a balancing act. But it's tough. It's really tough, especially in the early days where, you have to work around the clock to get things going. So it's a balance, but you're right. Just like with anything else, you have to find the right person, right? There are really bad investors out there. There are really bad people out there that are very intimidated by, women that are hardworking and so on and so forth. But I think that there are a lot of great men out there also who are supportive and want to be able to work together, like tag team it, and I've come across mainly, the ones that want to tag team it, and be like, hey, I'm, proud of what you're doing, and I want to be able to make sure that we could do this together. So they're out there.
Okay, you say, finding a good partner. So you have a good partner, um, husband,
Man.
and hey, you gotta ask nowadays. Gotta clarify.
Right.
And I gotta ask this because I can hear the African women say, "But is he an African man?" Because you always hear, "Oh, an African man, he'll never let you do what she's doing." So is he an African man?
That's not true though. I've been with African men, but I've also been with, African American men. It's about the I think it's about who you attract also, right? Especially coming from Ghana, and where I grew up, right? Where I grew up was very progressive. It's polygamous, right? On both sides. It's not just the men that can go have multiple women. It's also the women that can have multiple husbands. So it's a very liberal, and then also I grew up it's a matriarch, right? So because you have all of our, you have the queens and the this and that. So there's a lot of respect for women, and particularly for strong women. Yeah, Santua and this one and that one, that are all coming. So I feel like, but I have a lot of other African friends that have very, um, that have men that are just like, we're going to drag you by the hair and this one and that one and that one. But, I think maybe my experience is a bit different because Ghanaian men tend to be more progressive and more liberal when it comes to, stuff like that. And a lot of them are more about partnership, more so than, you stay in the kitchen and stay, barefoot and pregnant and all that. They're like, I'll cook too.
Yeah, and so I told you, I represent influencers, and many of them are in the YouTube space. And you
Mhm.
always get into these arguments of when you talk about polygamy. I know my wife and I talked to my father-in-law about it. Polygamy
Mhm.
sounds good until you have 40 wives, and
Right.
his father, had over 40, and then it sounds very dangerous because there's other
Yeah.
things that come with that. There's
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of jealousy, but what
Mhm.
the thing that men don't ever want to hear is, but the women are polygamous too. I've seen guys' heads want to blow up. So can you talk about where in Ghana that is, and if you've seen that with a woman with multiple husbands? Is it a certain tribe? Is it a certain region? Because folks have to learn that sometimes what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And talk about that.
Right. And I have to say this, I don't believe in polygamy, right? Because I am like, I have to be everything, and it has to be just you and I, right? However, I grew up in a polygamous society where, I knew many men that had multiple wives. And also, I had two aunts that I know personally that had multiple husbands as well. So I didn't think, it was part of the culture. So it's not something that I thought was strange or anything. I just knew that personally, for me, it was not a personal choice, that polygamy wasn't a personal choice for me. But I grew up around that where I didn't see anything wrong with it because that's what I grew up around.
And just last thing for the education purpose only, your aunt had two husbands. Did they live under the same roof? And how did that work out?
So for one of them, they did not live under the same roof. So, like sometimes she'd be with one and then another time she'd be with the other. And then, the other one, I think, it was about the same arrangement. There was the main one and then, sometimes they'll alternate. And it's the same, but most of the polygamous men that I knew, they lived together with their wives.
Oh,
Like they would have, if they had multiple wives, they all lived under the same roof.
okay.
But for the women that I knew, I didn't know any women where they lived with the men under the same roof, but I knew women that were married to more than one husband, and they would come in and they would alternate.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, Mary, we're going to talk off air because YouTube would love you.
Okay.
And some folks would love to even debate that have never even gone to Ghana, but tell you what the truth is and how, we'll talk about that off
Okay.
there. Now with Seek, it seems like it's a software company that just happens to have hardware, which reminds me of my Synology unit. I mean, it's my own server, but it's really a software company that I used to work with and for that has hardware. But is it both? Because since you have, you're kind of doing something that nobody else is doing, is it a software and hardware company, or how do you see it?
I see it, this is actually Best Buy said this to me. They said before Apple, right? Before Apple had iTunes, they had all kinds of MP3 players. But back then you had to be really good, right? At, the MP3 players were mainly being purchased by, geeks like myself who knew how to rip their music, put it on there, this one and that one. And so they weren't selling a lot of them. Then here comes Apple with the iPod. And then they had iTunes, right? So now all of a sudden you could access all your music and content in one place. Where VR is today is basically what Seek is doing for VR is what Apple did for, music, for digital music. So now when I started out, there were no one was looking at, putting all these different experiences in one place. You had to download multiple apps just to see, this music or that content. But we've put it all in one application. You just download the app, whether it's on your iPhone, Android, or wherever it is. And then we paired it with the headset, because they didn't have, no one was looking at mobile. I was looking at mobile because I knew, one, that most music fans were not going to buy a $3,000 computer, strap it to their back, and then also have to buy a $1,500 VR headset. So I wanted to do something that was simple and it had to be mobile based. The other motivator for focusing on mobile VR is because coming from Ghana, I knew that, for the continent of Africa, I mean, it's 1.2 billion people that are mobile first. So when we look at VR, it's not just gaming, but it's the next iteration of the web. These are going to create so many different opportunities where I can walk through, the doors of Nike and be able to access their shoes through VR and all that. So I wanted to make sure that, people, no matter where they were in the world, could be able to access this 3D web. And once they play with it, then they come up with all these different ideas on what and how they can live with it, how they can work with it. They're going to create their own companies too. But if the barrier is money and the technology, then you're not going to have as many people using it as possible. So that's why I did the combination of a cost-effective VR headset as well as the platform, so it's easy for everyone.
No, that's awesome. That and that you were thinking about Africa. I told y'all we'd get back to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
What is your play for Africa? Because I saw one of the products was about $103 for the
Mm-hmm.
headset, and that's a great price for us. But somebody in Ghana, somebody in Kenya, somebody in Malawi, they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
say, "Hold on,
That's still
that's
too much.
a lot of money." So, what is the play for Africa? Do they have to wait 10 years like the
No,
BlackBerry to get it, or
no.
what's the plan?
So I have a foldable VR headset. I don't have it with me right now. This is a foldable VR headset that we package with music, which accounts towards the album sales and all of that. It's actually a Grammy Award and Clio Award winning product, but it's also a patented product. And that one starts at the price point of $10. So that's the first. That's the in terms of what we're rolling out on the continent. That's going to be among the first. So we have products that are very consistent, and then even with the VR also, you're able to download it onto the app, and we have a 3D world that you can play with and be inside of that's fully immersive that does not require a VR headset. So those are all some of the products that we are rolling into the marketplace. The last report that I saw, we were number 25 on the entertainment in Ghana. We've had concerts there that have had millions of people. Right now, we're focusing on making sure that the payment, because most of the payment systems here decline, cards from around the world because of, the FDIC and all that, all kinds of stuff. So those are problems that we're working on. We're working on infrastructure and whatnot. We just announced, I think it was like 2 days ago, that we've partnered with the biggest soccer team in Africa to actually, launch, where next season we're going to be broadcasting their games not only on seek.com but also in VR.
Can you nerd out and let us know, because you have the platform,
Mm-hmm.
what does it take if a artist wants to, do they have to do anything special? Do they need, the 360 cameras? Do they need a Seek only camera that then, brings the whole, everything? I want to know what the artists need to do, what the cost looks like, because an artist might be listening to this or watching this now and say, what can I do? But also very important in these times, what can't they do? Because you have platforms that I think are going to be like Facebook, and it's called OnlyFans, where they're uncensoring artists. And a lot of artists don't want to be censored. A lot of influencers don't want to be censored. Not that they all want to get naked, nude, and do lewd things, that everybody's doing anyway in their own line. But
Mm-hmm.
how does that work with an artist? And are there any constraints on, what they can do on your platform?
So in terms of our platform, and the great thing about the Seek platform is that, our mission, again, we enable artists to generate new revenue streams from all these emerging worlds, right? But that also means live streams. So we're doing live streams on seek.com. We're doing, virtual worlds. We just, this week we just had a great partnership discussion with a platform that has hundreds of millions of fans that we haven't announced yet, but we make sure that you can create content the way that you're creating it now, and we can still help you monetize it digitally in these immersive worlds. Or if you want to create custom content for these immersive worlds, we can work with you to do that as well. This year for Bob Marley's 75th anniversary celebration, that we're going to have a tour, but with COVID, those tours were canceled. So we teamed up with Universal Music. They brought the tour onto Seek. We captured the content from A to Z. They were in our studios. We captured the content. We distributed it in VR. And, it's Billboard actually did an article. We're the number one live stream on Facebook right now as we speak. 9.6 million streams within 24 hours. That's Seek, Billboard, Rolling Stone, all of that, everybody covered it. But we make sure that we work with the artists to ensure that they can distribute the content and that it's super easy, frictionless, free, and it's the same for the user. So if they want to access it on a VR headset, download the app, put it in there, boom. If they want to watch it without it, they could do that too. If they just want the live stream with the chat, they could do that too. But we have all the tools and everything for them to do that very easily, so they can focus on, what it is that they do best, which is make music.
And will they be censored at all? Can they do whatever they want? Is this
they can do whatever they want, because we have age gates, right? So if you want to get on there, and we don't want to censor the artistry, right? But at the same time, we have to be responsible for making sure that that content is not accessed by, children, or that is not inappropriate for people. But because we have age gates, and and we have a way to make sure that they describe what it is that they're doing, but we are not, we're not going to censor to a certain point, right? I mean, I'm not going to allow somebody on the platform that's, maybe spewing racial this one and that one. And, there are a lot of places for that. This is not one of those places. So if they wanted to come and, denigrate, Black people, or, do certain things that's not consistent with what we're trying to do, which is help, not hurt, that's a different story. But we don't have enough of our own platforms where we can elevate and, really help each other. And a lot of the platforms that are out there, quite frankly, a lot of the algorithms are very, very skewed. I've posted, pictures where, I had braids where they've, marked that as being politically sensitive, or this one and that one. And you're like, what are you feeding into these algorithms that if you see a person with braids, you're automatically saying that they're promoting political agenda?
Well, the technology is only as good as the people who create it.
Exactly.
So but with that, and I'm thinking of, there have been uncensored videos. I remember when BET used to play them all day, and folks want to be naked. So nudity would then be allowed on Seek under their own platform. It would not be, you can't do that. Is that correct? Or do we
I mean, right now, where we also have to think about advertisers, and it has to be brand safe. We're not exactly promoting or allowing nudity at this point. We can give the artists the tools that they need, to be naked. But I mean, we want to be, again, we have a very wide range of users. So we have to make sure that we're responsible, and we're responsible and considerate. So right now we don't have any nudity on Seek. We have, artistic creativity, the same thing that you would put on, Facebook or YouTube or, somewhere else.
You have seen Instagram. So, I mean, you can see the womb of some people, and I can see them saying and see it in DR even closer, because let's be honest, and I feel comfortable talking to you like this, that, I've read books like The Future is Faster Than You Think, and you read, what's here and what's going to happen that most people don't know. I'm sure you go to some of the conferences, and the fact is that there's people who are making, money. Some have made millions of dollars in the virtual world, and they say in the future, folks won't come out of that world. So they were literally, and I do mean people literally. So if your kids are listening, we can keep it, as a PG as possible. But there's going to be people who do everything, and they're going to want to see it, and they're going to want to see other people. So, Seek might be that platform, which I know there will be others, and there are others.
Yeah, there are others. Yeah.
But if I don't have to leave my world, and even if I like my wife in virtual reality, but in reality, I don't talk to anybody, that is kind of where I'm going to see how far, because it's going to come a time where we're going to say that son of yours does not your son, but that son of yours does not come out of virtual reality, and he pays his bills in virtual reality and all that. So Seek is already, there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I have to sign up. If I have a concert, they have to sign up for my concert. It's not like Netflix where once I pay for Seek, I can see all these different channels. Or is that how the interface is set up?
Yeah, the interface is set up to where you can, and the website is the same, right? If you go to seek.com, it's the way that it's organized on the website, where when we do our live streams, a lot of people just watch it. The last live stream we did, we had 200,000 people that watched it from the website, and I think we had under 10,000 that were actually on the VR platform. So you can access it in both ways, but you can pay for that particular show that you want to watch, or you could pay $9.99 and have access to everything that's on the platform for the month. And then there's like a 3-month, contract too. And then there's a, 1 year, but you can, and the 1 year is a VIP and you get a lot of VIP benefits too, but you can buy just that one ticket. Where we're seeing the biggest growth, and we're seeing that people are spending a lot of time on the platform, is actually with the meditation and the mindfulness, and people just, it's very anxiety driven now, right? Even with these elections, and sometimes people just want to disconnect, right? So they just put on and a lot of nurses, right? At lunchtime, that's when we get our biggest spikes, because it's PTSD dealing with COVID for most of these hospitals. So at lunchtime, a lot of people are just putting on the headset and they're looking at, beautiful tiger, and they're going on a safari in Africa. And we have all those experiences on the platform. And that's where we're seeing a big growth. That's like right after our music concerts, right? Music concerts. So that's where we will continue to grow in terms of the mindfulness, in terms of music from around the world. People are discovering, Afro beats on the platform. We want to continue to give them more of that content. Hip hop, classic rock is also a big one on there. I see a lot of companies, especially in Japan, that are doing VR porn. And it's, it's working for them. It's not something that we're looking at because it's such a huge opportunity anyway. So people are going to be doing different things that work for them. And for us, what's working for us is music.
Okay. And, when you start talking about Asia, I really see, and I cannot wait. I might have to produce this, but I want to see Afro beats, and I think K-pop that already lives in that VR type world, seeing that collaboration, and that's awesome. Now, how does the profit share work out for those who have their content on Seek? Because for me, I have, clients who this would be great for them, but they're like, Google's paying me so much money already. Okay, I can go over to Seek. If I give content, how does that work out? Because, like YouTube did the whole, premium, YouTube Red, then YouTube Premium. Is there a profit share model? So, influencers, we can get them all over to Seek.
For us, when we look at music, right? For a lot of music artists, for example, they would have 1 million streams. Maybe they get paid $3,000 for that. I've had artists I had one particular artist that we're working with that was based in France that had close to 1 billion streams, but they had gotten paid very little for. There are artists on the continent that have had close to, 100 million streams, but they get paid very little for. Because the algorithm is based on your location, right? They'll say, well, we didn't air any advertising on there, whether they aired or not. If you're not in the US, if you're not in the right geography, then you get very little for it. So they're like, I would rather sell tickets to my show, to my concert. It's not a music video that I'm putting out here and asking people to pay for. It's a full-blown concert, right? So it's just in the digital world. And I would rather have maybe 10% of those 100 million people come and pay me $1 to come and see my concert than have 100 million streams of my concert where nobody's paying for it. Or I'm getting paid, pennies for it because I'm being told that I'm not in the right geography. The other thing too is for urban music, if you do a hip hop song and Justin Bieber does the same lyrics, because you're Black, yours will be seen as not being brand safe, but he will be seen as being brand safe. So he'll be able to monetize his at a much higher rate. So maybe for every $1 he's getting paid, maybe you're getting half of that. And so for a lot of urban artists too, they're saying, you know what? I'm not, rather than get paid, 3,000 per million, this one, that one for my concerts, I want to do it on this platform because I want to get paid per ticket. So for content creators that it's working for and they're happy with, what they're being paid, then this is not for them. This is for serious artists that have a serious fan base that they're not monetizing in the way that is efficient or effective for them. And a lot of those are artists that are located in geographies that are not, maybe US. But you have artists, you have mega artists too, like we have Guns N' Roses on the platform. They sold out 24 million, they sold out 1 million tickets in 24 hours. They want to be able to extend their reach. So we have their virtual concert on the platform. So it's a centralized place to find premium quality concerts, right? No different than the reason why Twitch left YouTube to go create Twitch, because they wanted to have a centralized place where when you go, you know exactly what you're getting, where I don't have to go search for, okay, I want this Afrobeats concert. I got to go search a billion places to find a good quality one. And then it might not even be the full concert. But it's about artists first, and it's about monetizing, helping them to create new revenue streams direct to fan, right? Create these new experiences for the fan. So it's not just music videos or, content that maybe they're earning, a couple of dollars on.
Now, when they record those concerts, and I think that I think Seek, I see the potential too, because I like to break the game and try to build it back together, kind of like near. But let's say someone is doing a concert right now, or they're going to do it next week. Do they need to have a multiple camera angle, or do you have something in the your software that will give a pleasurable experience? Because a lot of people, when I'm watching VR, and I'm going on tour with someone on YouTube, right? I want to see everything. And I find it so cool if they filmed it with the 360 camera, I can see, the fly on the wall. And so do they need to have that 360 camera, or do you guys have something that, just, they don't need that?
Yeah, I mean, we do one of two things. So when we film in both 180 so that we can distribute those on, regular platforms, but then we also film in 360. And with the 360, we have like one that has like a 10 color depth, and, that creates the types of experience where you feel like you're actually there. This is like a third or fourth generation of the VR cameras, because the early ones were very grainy, and what have you. But the ones that are in the marketplace today, and the ones that we're using, so we have these very, very powerful, it's not our own, but we've customized, the technology to allow us to really be able to do a lot of things. And then we have lenses that we're applying on top of the, the 24 camera array and all of these things. So for them to do, the type of quality content that our users are used to and want to pay for, we encourage that they use the 360 cameras. And a lot of times we'll film it with them, to, like I mentioned with Ziggy Marley for the 75th anniversary of Bob Marley, we did the full production. So but if they have their own 360 camera and they want to film it, they can film it and distribute it on the platform as well.
Guys, I could talk to Mary all day, but we got to be respectful of the time. I want to end this with, I have one last question, but I want to let people know I found Mary from the ditde.com conference that our former guest, Wilmot Allen, who lives now in Kenya, American guy, told us about. And that was such an awesome conference. And I was taking notes, and Mary, I had to, get it. And I had to bother her and really do my research and use my investigation skills. I was trained by the best. But I want to ask you, with all your success that you're having and that I know you're gonna have in the future, what is a community give back that you are doing or that you're gonna do in the future?
My whole company is about community give back, right? So our mission is helping artists generate new revenue streams so that they can create sustainable careers. Because when you look at music, there's a lot of exploitation that goes on. When you look at music, particularly in places like I mentioned on the continent, where people want to be able to make a living from their art, right? You can't pay the bills with likes, you can't pay the bills with views. You can, so by creating a platform that allows them to monetize their artistry in a sustainable way, I want to be able to have the millions and millions of artists be able to make a very good living. Like when you look at sports, you've got the NBA and this one and that one, and you have all these platforms that support them, that allow them to truly make that living. But you hear of so many artists that go broke, and a lot of artists also want to be able to go direct to fan, but they don't have the label infrastructure. They don't, especially the infrastructure to monetize. It's not cheap to build a platform that we've built, but we want every artist, whether they're independent or established, to be able to, so that's one of the give back. And we train a lot of people. Our biggest problem is that a lot of the people that we train, they get snatched up by CBS and, Fox and this one and that one, but that's fine, because I'm opening a whole pipeline of people that look like me and you that are going into these careers that, they never, ever would have even thought about looking into. We have one of our videographers that, he had a very, very difficult past. No one would have hired him. He now sits, he's now chairing a creative organization in LA, and he started with us. And we gave him the training, we gave him the equipment and everything else. And he's doing fantastic work for us. He's worked for Billboard and this one and that one and that one, because now he could show up and say, oh, look at the work I did with Lady Gaga. Look at what I did with, Demi and this one and that one. So we're giving opportunities to a whole generation of people that doesn't exist today. And so it just makes me really happy that I'm doing this.
You guys got to go to Seek.com. You got to download the app, make your profile. You don't have to, you can even be the darkest of dark with your avatar, yes. Not just, that one golden thumbs up. I know people have chocolate thumbs up now, but not every system and keyboard allows you to do that. When they do go download Seek and then go to the website to watch it, and do they have to have a Seek VR set, or let's say they have one already, will it work on any VR set?
It'll work on any VR set, but I really encourage them also. It's Christmas, it's the holidays around the corner. Support us, right? So we have to support each other, and we also have to provide feedback, not just criticism, right? But please buy the VR, buy the headphones. This is, if you're gonna buy a headphone, if you're gonna buy a gift for someone for the holidays, it's really, really good. And buy the VR headset, buy that for your kids, because once they try it, you don't know what else they're gonna build. I was inspired by a documentary I saw on space, so many years ago. It inspired me. I wanted to know what it's like, to walk on the moon and do this, and I followed that curiosity. So these are not just, and the same is the story for Mark Zuckerberg and all these other people. The little computer that they got, they first play with it, and then they get inspired to do so much. So you owe it to yourself, right? Please support us so we can support the community, but buy the headset, buy the headphone, all of that. These are great gifts for the holidays as well.
Definitely. And folks, when she says us, because I know everybody is coming from a different place who watches this, who wants to get the game. Us is our tribe. I always talk about Seth Godin's book, Tribe. Us, we know who us is. It doesn't have to be explained. But for those who might be like, but I'm, these are us. We are us. We are the folks who, are going to get the next billion, just to put it on the scoreboard and keep putting a purposeful life. So I really appreciate what you're doing. You guys, I got a new friend in Mary. Come on. You guys be blessed. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.